I wish I had been more of reading the Milestone comics once they had gotten created, because getting to work on the animated version of it, Static Shock with Dwayne McDuffie and Dennis Cowan, I felt like, oh my God. Usually, back in the days when you do a cartoon, you don't get to see nothing till after you talk on the mic. For Samurai Jack, Genndy had already started visually creating the world as he was casting us. You were also smart to give a reference to Andrea Romano. To me, she was somebody who made animation an actual Hollywood career.
Animation has changed the world and introduced us to industry titans, pillars of the industry, people who remind us what true passion looks like, and my guest is no exception. Since his start as a child in the 80s, he's gone on to stack a resume filled with childhood favorites and generational animated programming. You've heard him as Samurai Jack and Samurai Jack, Jon Stewart in the animated Justice League cartoon and various other DC projects, Static Shock and Static Shock, Hermes, Conrad and Futurama, Kit Fisto and Star Wars, Vamp and Metal Gear Solid, Jazz and Transformers animated, and if you think that's impressive, please, we haven't even cracked the surface of his timeless catalog. More than just a voice, you can catch his charm on camera as Marv in Pulp Fiction, in Spider-Man 2, and most recently in Logic's most recent film, Paradise Records. But more than just an actor, Phil serves as an inspiration to millions and a reminder to the Black community of our worth and that our dreams are not that far behind. Enough talk of the man, let's talk to him. With over 500 acting credits, welcome to Jant Moore Interviews. I'm your host, Josh, aka Jant Moore. Help me welcome father, writer, and animation superstar, Phil Lamarr. Welcome, man.
Thanks, Joshua.
I'm so happy to.
Good to be with you.
It is an honor in every sense of the word, sir. I mean, when I do say you are my inspiration for a lot of my performance and for a lot of how I conduct myself professionally, I do truly mean that. You've done so much to not only for animation, but you serve really as a reminder for us Black youth out there that it is possible to achieve anything. So thank you for what you've given, and I'm excited to make a great program for you today.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. Today is all about celebration, and there's a lot to celebrate. First I just want to start off, get the mic a little bit closer. I want to start off with a nice little icebreaker. With all that you've done, you've been in so much stuff. Even in this graphic, there are so many characters here that you brilliantly brought to life. With that in mind, how does it feel to be an active participant in the history and animation and have your own legacy to share with others?
Well, for me, it feels lucky. Because it's nice to have my career going on for a long time, but I feel like getting to work with so many fantastic, great, and nice creators makes me good.
Absolutely, and you've worked with some of the best of them, from Dave Filoni to Andrea Romano to Genndy with the Samurai Jack stuff, and so many other. Like, there's so many great Greg Weisman with Young Justice and Spectacular Spider-Man. I mean, these are giants in the animation industry and have really left a mark on this long lineage of animated programming that continues to inspire so many. I mean, I know you do the conventions a lot, so you've met so many fans who just, I'm sure, tell you stories of just how much you really mean to them and how much the work you've done really has changed their life and impacted them.
Yeah. Well, and I know I get to go to conventions because I've been lucky enough to work with people like Matt Groening, Dwayne McDuffie, Bruce Timm, Genndy Tartakovsky, Seth MacFarlane, Dave Filoni, and Quentin Tarantino.
Oh my goodness, man. Well, all of that incredible work and the chance to work with these brilliant creatives starts somewhere. And I want to start with your beginning in Los Angeles, California. You're an LA native. And it's so interesting seeing the culture of LA. I'm curious, how did the culture of LA at the time you were growing up help influence your youth and your interest outside and influence your interest even as an adult?
Well, I mean, I guess, well, I know that the goodest thing, and for me, the luckiest thing, was living in LA means you're in the town of Hollywood. So it means you, everybody thinks about getting a show business job. Well, I guess like if you live in Detroit, you think about working for a car because that's what the city is about. Well,
It,
actually, I got lucky because my mother moved as a teenager from Arkansas to LA and then went to Compton High, met this guy who became my dad, and then she became the first and only person in her Arkansas family to go to college. And one of her junior college friends, after my mother got jobs at IBM, her friend got a job at NBC and became the highest ranked black woman in show business for decades. And well, she was the nicest person and I loved her son. We hang out together. But as an NBC executive, I guess because my mom took her to my high school plays, she got me a job and into the acting union in junior year of high school. And well, and it's funny because, this is Black History Month. My first job as a actor was getting paid to do a cartoon with Mr.T.
another black icon, man. I mean, you've gotten the
Yeah.
chance to work with some really impactful talent. I mean, Sam Jackson. I mean, I know that must have been crazy to work with him when
Yeah.
he was, uh, his career has been so amazing to see him go from Pulp Fiction to the
Yeah.
Avengers films to Mace
Everything.
Windu and like you said, like everything. It's been
Mm-hmm.
amazing to watch his rise, and it's so interesting about his stories. In our day and age, everything feels so fast and so quick, and like there's this instant gratification. But people don't know
Yeah.
that Sam Jackson started when he was like 40. Like he started pretty late. And
Mm-hmm.
he was able to create so much stuff. So
Yeah.
if
And he
anyone's
was so amazingly good. Well, I tell all my actor friends, if you ever get a chance to do something with Sam Jackson, he gonna make you a better actor. Cause being in a scene with Sam Jackson is like getting to take a master class. Because this great nice guy who you talk to off set, but then when he gets on set, he completely transforms himself into another human being without costume and makeup. But you're just like, oh dang, I don't feel like I'm looking into Sam's eyes. He's somebody else now.
which is the amazing power of acting, and it takes brilliant performers and training to get to that point. I want to talk about your youth and really just growing up in your household. There's this conversation of nature and nurture and stuff. So with your home life and the outside influences and LA culture, how do the experiences and lessons of your home life help you balance the outside world and your own interests?
Uh, well, it's funny because nobody in my family felt the same as me. Well, because back in the old days, like I said, nobody else in our Johnson family went to college. But back as for the kids, I was the only one reading so much. My cousin would say, Phil, what you doing? Come on, we going outside to play. But that, well, we didn't use the term blurred back in the 80s, but I was a blurred. And that's how I became an actor. Because in eighth grade, in my high school, junior high, they started doing a play based on a kid's book that I read and loved. And so I went to the acting teacher and said, "Ooh, I need to audition for this. I want to play this part of the guy at the, you know." And I was going for this one little part, but then the dude cast me as one of the leads.
That's divine right there. That's divine
Yeah.
timing. And I think it's really awesome that you got that. Well, you do mention reading a lot. You know, it's so funny. You remind me a lot of my mom because my mom was the same way. She loved reading. I hate that I have not picked it up, but, I do read from time to time because reading is important. And I love education and knowledge, and I love where stories can take you. And with you having this early love of literature, at a time when, unfortunately, in the US, where literacy rates are not the best right now, unfortunately, what has captivated you about literature over the years and has been one of the most valuable lessons you've gained from it?
um Captivate. Well, I mean, I don't read as much nowadays in this old age as I used to when I was young. I used to, but I would always get as many of the books of some sort. I had all the Sherlock Holmes books. And, well, this is another one of my luckies because 40 years later, I got to play Sherlock Holmes on an Audible show.
Yes, you did. What is it called? Oh, what is it
It's
called?
called Moriarty,
Boom. There we go. Yeah.
starring some great dudes from Lord of the Rings.
I remember seeing you got casted in that, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool to see a black Sherlock Holmes, or just
Right.
like that's really cool to see what you've been able to produce with your love of literature and reading. What has been one of the most valuable lessons you've gained from it, besides like helping you as a performer? What has literature taught you about yourself?
Literature taught me how things and people could act. You read a story and you find out about something, and that helps you to bring that kind of thing back when you got a part like that or doing an improv.
I loved the stories that I've read, and you're right. Like, even when you're like watching something or watching something that's really good, it's amazing what it could teach you. We're gonna talk about your work with Andrea Romano, but I was having a conversation with my friend about Avatar: The Last Airbender and the arc Sokka had as a character in the first season, going from the sexist character that was very, misogynistic towards women, and that one episode where he meets this entire group of female warriors, the Kyoshi warriors, and how he gets beaten by them, and how he learns and grows from his sexism, and how important that was for us as boys to see that growing up. It's
Wow.
see, like, those stories that literature and movies and pop culture can take us
Right.
on is so imperative to us as youth, not only as youth but as adults too. I can't even tell you how much I've learned in my older age from stuff I watched as a kid. Like, Avatar has a completely different meaning to me now as an
Yeah.
adult than I did as a kid. Like, Avatar talks about morality, genocide, faith. It's deeper than what I thought it was as a kid. You don't catch all that stuff until much later.
Yeah. Well, because that was great storytelling. I mean, Avatar and a lot of these later cartoons were not like, because back in the old days, cartoons wouldn't have stuff in them that real books or movies or TV shows did. You wouldn't feel stuff in a Bugs Bunny cartoon. You would just laugh. But Avatar was such a great, because it was creating this world, but also giving us feelings about this world. You know?
And that's what again, just to reiterate, that's what great art does, and that's why I love being an artist, getting to inhabit these worlds and getting to craft a unique perspective from your own, as a human being. I love seeing people's different takes on stuff. Even though I have my gripes with, like, reboots and like remakes and stuff, it is interesting to see how a different bunch of creatives can take from their own experience to add to this work, that's old. So I always give credit to creatives who do reboots and remakes and stuff, even though I do have my issues. But that's a
Well,
whole nother
Joshua, you
conversation.
also smart to give a reference to Andrea Romano. To me, she was somebody who made animation an actual Hollywood career. She made, I mean, every show she directed got so great. Even just little shows with animals or superhero shows or, this incredible world show, Avatar. Yeah.
And I'm very excited to talk about your creative genius, getting to experience that creative genius firsthand. But I want to talk about this because I'm so interested on your perspective on this matter. You started acting, like you were saying, younger, doing the Mr.T show.
Yeah.
Does it feel more freeing to act as a child as opposed to acting as an adult? Because, when we're an adult, we think about, our voice, how we look, and all this other thing. But as a kid, we just do it. We're having fun. We're in a sandbox. So, how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, because I started acting on stage because there was something based on a book I liked. And I wasn't thinking about, you know, that as a career. It was just something I liked doing. I like being in front of people and hearing them clap. But it was funny to get into show business. Although back in the 80s, it didn't working on a cartoon didn't feel like acting like you did on stage. Like, really? It's like, yeah, no. Just keep your words down. You don't want to mess up the kids. What?
You talked about in various interviews the superhero cartoons that you grew up on back in the day and how there was more to be desired from them at the time because they didn't get into all that crazy stuff that we expect from our superhero projects nowadays. It's just kind of like Justice League beat the squid or something. It wasn't like diving deep into the
Mm,
mythos and the mythology into how deep these projects get. With it being Black History Month, I love that to be able to speak to you again is just an honor because I'm able to highlight how you feel about your own perception of your blackness as an adult. I think often in America, especially at a certain age, we start to consider what it means to be a black man and how we fit in society. So, when did you become aware of your blackness and how has your own identity with it
mm.
strengthened over the years?
Well, I mean, I was going to a private school in LA, so although thankfully nobody was ever saying the N word or pushing at my blackness, but it felt very cool in 10th grade to do this Woody Allen play at school and to get cast to play Humphrey Bogart over some dudes in senior year who look more like Humphrey Bogart. But the acting teacher who had already cast me in 8th grade knew I could make myself sound like that old actor dude.
And
So I got lucky.
it's luck and preparation, my friend, and I'm glad you've had that experience to never be challenged in your blackness because I've had a lot of experiences, especially with living in the South, of
Oh.
being pushed. I remember this one situation where I'd posted about like Black Lives Matter on my Instagram,
Wow.
and I came to school the next day, and two former friends were I was like in the gym locker room
Mm.
and they wouldn't let me leave the locker room. They were like trying to fight me because I was posting about Black Lives Matter and just
Mhm.
about that stuff. So I've had situations like that has made me consider more about how I fit in society as a black man.
Ah.
And it's really awesome to hear that you've been steadfast in your own identity. It's really cool, and I'm
Mm.
sure that has helped add to the authenticity of your work. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, Joshua, I know you ain't 70, so you're in the good world. But back in the old times, the terms diversity and representation weren't used a lot in show business. I mean, there were black performers, well, ever since we had Sidney Poitier, so people knew, ooh, you can have a black guy make a movie that everybody's gonna come to. But, back in the old days, he was just the one. But nowadays, all the things we watch and fan have all of the ethnicities that we can all be part of. I remember years ago, back in the 90s, when Carl Lumbly played the first black superhero on TV. Nowadays, you don't get a lot of that only one black like you used to back in the old days. I think maybe it's because we've got more, well, no, it's like I said, we have people who understand the value of diversity and representation. Like, it's not just people of one ethnicity think, I'm only going to tell a story about my people. Like Quentin Tarantino put a bunch of different kinds of people in a movie. Although, as a comic book nerd, blurred, I was big into comics and there wasn't a ton of diversity in comics, but there was little bits. And I remember getting to meet the great comic book artist Neal Adams, and it was great to talk to the person who had put a black character into a big comic book in the 70s. And it was funny talking to him, and he's like, yeah, no, they were pushing against me. They said, what? Don't call him John Stewart. You should give him, a blacker name, like Dwayne Washington. It's like, no.
It just goes to show what priorities people had back then. And it's really awesome to see how far we've come. I mean, yes, there's more we can do in regards to true, accurate representation, but to see a film like Sinners or Black Panther or Woman King, or just like all of these like black centric films make waves in the Hollywood industry. I mean, Black Panther is one of the highest grossing films of all time. Like, that is just, I mean, amazing. And what, even to go back to like what Quincy Jones and Will Smith started with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like that is historic for representation and how far we've come. And it's just amazing to see how much further we're headed. I know we have this very challenging administration right now in regards to diversity and how people are portrayed, but it is also freeing to see creatives push through that and give us authentic stories time and time again. I want to start diving into your acting background and how far you've come and just your skills. I know you started a lot of stuff, especially going to Yale and becoming a part of Purple Crayon and the Groundlings, and really just having a strong background in improv. What credit do you give your improvisational skills as to how you've grown as an artist?
Honestly, I feel like getting introduced to improv is the reason I decided to become an actor for career. Because, like I said, I was doing plays in my teens, but when a buddy in college took a bunch of us from plays and said, let's start an improv group, and got pushed into improv, and it felt like the nice, positive kind of acting. You were up there working with the audience, taking their suggestion and giving them back a funny version of it. And you're working together. That whole yes and. This was very positive, heartful. And nobody ever talked about acting on stage or in videos like that. But I was like, ooh, this feels good. And after living in college and coming back home to LA, I said, ooh, Phil, you need to have more improv in your life. That's going to make you smile. And so I decided to take classes at the Groundlings, the big improv company in LA. Although it was also a good career thing because so many amazing, great people had been through that program too. You know, Phil Hartman, Paul Rubens, Lorraine Newman. It's like,
Oh man.
wow, somebody who did improv created one of, like, basically a human Bugs Bunny type character.
It's so awesome to see a lot of, it's interesting to see that a lot of voice actors come from an improvisational or either stand-up comedy background. Like I know Tom Kenny has done some stand-up comedy, Roger Craig Smith, John
Mm-hmm.
DiMaggio, like uh, the list goes on and on of people who have come from this improvisational and comedy background. Why do you feel like improv is an important tool for performers to have?
Well, I think the big reason it helps you is because when you do improv, or, well, in the Groundlings, you do improv, then you do sketch. But when you do improv, you perform based on suggestions, and they're different suggestions. So you play different characters. And that's why it's easier to then play a bunch of different roles. Because, I mean, a lot of us, when you start professional acting, a lot of people just think about, oh, what's the character? Okay, I would sound and act like this. Everybody would just be themselves in that costume. But with improv, you're always figuring out how to change and do this, which I think was a good way into cartoons, because getting hired for voice acting, usually they would cast you as three characters in a
Right.
cartoon. So you had to not just do you, not just sound like you had to sound like different people.
With your skills in improv and those comedy groups that you've been a part of would eventually lead you onto the doorstep of Mad TV. You've done so much work in the TV
Mhm.
universe, was playing so many different characters. You played Prince, you played Michael Jackson, you played a pantheon of characters.
Mhm.
What is the genius of Mad TV, and how essential is it to the work ethic that you have now?
This is back to being lucky. Well, because, like I said, I was in love with improv, but the Groundlings' big thing is if you do a good improv, write it up again and do a different scene. So they get you from just making stuff up on stage to writing sketches. That is what got me my first on camera TV series, because on Mad TV, they wanted people who could write things and do multiple characters. And they knew, well, they hired at the beginning two of us from the Groundlings, me and Mary Shear. And it was good to get to do the scene as a UPS guy on camera, the same scene that me and Mary had done in a 99-seat theater. So that was different. And, well, and also when you auditioned for the sketch show, they asked you to, all right, play us your characters and also any impressions. And I had been doing some impressions in sketches on stage, Michael Jackson. So I ended up getting to do that. Yeah, it's funny. Back in the Groundlings, I did some sketch with a great classic actress, Jennifer Coolidge, where I was doing, we were doing a scene of Michael Jackson and Brooke Shields.
It's awesome to see how that sketch background transition and sketches transition into
Mhm.
something that so many people could see. I know you've talked about how Mad TV wasn't the most successful, but
Well, because being late night on Fox back in the 90s wasn't necessarily as big. Well, because back in the old days, Fox wasn't considered as big a channel as ABC, NBC, and CBS. But the people making this show were great. And it was lovely to be on the first sketch show with more than one black person. It was the only sketch show anybody ever seen in the U.S. with 3 black cast members at the beginning.
Was Deborah Wilson a part of the beginning?
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
yeah.
and Orlando Jones.
Oh man, I love that. That's history. I love both those
Mhm,
performers, especially Deborah Wilson. Like, oh my gosh, like
mhm.
seeing how far
Yeah,
she's come in the industry doing stuff like Justice League and Star Wars. And
right?
she's done like a lot of the video game side of things. And she's
Mhm.
just, gosh, you've worked with her. You know, you know how much talent she's got. You've done a
Yeah.
lot of work in comedy, and of
Mhm.
course, again, to go back to your improvisational skills, and you've even written for comedy as well. With you having such a strong grounding in the world of comedy as a genre, what makes comedy such a perfect breeding ground for ideas and a reflection of other genres?
Well, um, I mean, I don't know. I just think that comedy is easier to create than horror because everybody knows what makes them laugh. All right, let me do that. Let me get you to laugh. Although, but maybe I guess people in horror know how they get scared, and they do the same thing to the audience. But with comedy, it feels nicer to make the audience feel better.
My history with horror is not is not the best. I usually tend to stay away from like I usually tend to stay away from like demon like horror movies. That's me. Like I like Exorcist and stuff. That's not my thing. But like I watch like a good like Halloween or like Freddy Krueger or Friday. You know what I'm saying? Like this. I like slashers are my thing. I love a good slasher. But don't ask me about like the Exorcist and the Poltergeist and like I'm tired of all the cysts. They're very I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
Or like the Evil Dead. Well, Evil Dead is an interesting one for me because I could do Evil
Hmm.
Dead
Oh, really?
because they're funny. Because I love Sam Raimi. I love me some Sam
Mm.
Raimi. One of my favorites, and I know you did Spider-Man 2 with him. I think that's so crazy. That's the first time I've ever like noticed you like
Wow.
on camera. Like I've seen you in other stuff, but I was like,
Mm.
that's wait, that's that's Phil. That's so cool. What was it like working on Spider-Man 2? I'm so curious. How did you even get involved with that project?
I'd auditioned for this other part of a guy in an elevator who ran into Spider-Man. They cast somebody else in it, and then later they said, "We've got another part for you. Can you come in and do this part in the train?" And I'm like, "Yeah, to do. I'll do anything in a Spider-Man story."
Did you get to meet Toby? Like, did you get to like shake his hand? Ah, that's so
Yeah, got to
cool.
be on set with him. It was such a pleasure.
I must have been so cool to see him come back and like No Way Home after all those years. Like, oh my gosh, what a celebration of Spider-Man's legacy. It's just crazy to see how long the character has lasted, and we're getting a
Mhm.
Spider-Man movie in the next few months. It's just like this character really has stood the test of time. You've done a lot of stuff on the Spider-Man shows. You've
Mhm.
done Spectacular Spider-Man, the
I loved
2017 show, and then you just worked on Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man most recently as the father of Lonnie Lincoln. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it.
You're his father, and then Mr. Taylor.
Mhm.
What a
Well, I was so glad they were doing a Spider-Man movie after doing all the Batman movies and a Batman series. But because I loved Spider-Man, I thought that Stan Lee brought so much more feel and real life like into this hero.
just a
Most other
broke
comic
guy in
book
New
heroes,
York.
you never heard nothing about their parents or uncles.
Except for like Batman, of course, with them
Mhm.
dying, but which was like the exception. I speak about your career, and it's so awesome to see what you've done on camera. Besides Spider
Mhm.
Man, you worked on Fresh Prince of Bel Air, which I didn't know about. That's cool. You worked on like a lot of essential Black sitcoms. How
Mhm.
has your experience on Black sitcoms and working with such great talent like Will Smith
Yeah,
informed your perception of representation and performance?
it was so great because working with Will Smith was, because he was so good, even in his youngness. So that was a pleasure. That was so, and I just was playing this, weird court dude in a episode that he was pushing on.
You play a lot of like those like more like background characters that like kind of
Mhm.
pop up in a lot of
Mhm.
these sitcoms.
Well, that's the thing is, it's not, you don't need to only play a character the lead likes or just a character the lead is against. Either one. It can be a good scene.
What has working on those sitcoms taught you about your perception of representation and its importance and need to be in the industry?
Well, I mean, back in the old days, I did a lot of sitcom bits and parts, and some were up, some were down. It was, well, I never did nothing on Friends because there were no black people on Friends. But um, luckily, I did get to do some sitcoms with comedy dudes who I thought were legends. Like in the early 90s, I got to do the George Carlin sitcom.
Get out.
And that was amazing because, wow, this is the man who made the profane words the funniest.
The staple of like a lot of comedy shows now, just like comedy in general.
Mhm. Well, but also, I mean, because like I told you I was a big reader as a kid, but I was also big watching TV. I was watching a lot of things. So once time in the 90s, I got a chance to do a scene on an episode of a sitcom with Red Fox. And that made my heart blow up because this was somebody who I grew up worshiping, because he was one of the most amazing TV stars, back in the day. And that was so fun to finally get to meet him. Although, I guess maybe because I got to meet him after worshiping him is the reason why one time I tried to put him into a cartoon.
What?
Well, doing an episode of the Billy and Mandy cartoon, they said, "Oh, we're going to do a character of Dracula," and they showed me the image, and I saw their version of Dracula was an older black guy, and I told to the producer, I'm like, "Well, he looks like, I think he should sound like Red Fox," and that's what we did. I don't suck. I scrape and lick.
Oh my gosh, I love one thing I notice a lot about like researching your resumes. You like do like a lot of impressions. Like you've done Barack
Mhm.
Obama, you've done a number of Chris Rock's roles, like playing Marty in the Madagascar in the Madagascar things. And there's
Yeah.
another thing you did for Chris Rock. I can't remember. You do a lot for Chris Rock, so you can
Mhm.
you probably can think of all of them that you've done.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. Well, again, Chris, another great big comedy legend. But I realized once I got into the cartoon world that his career was too big for him to be doing the cartoon. Like, no, no, we can't afford Chris on this cartoon. But he's already done a character. Phil, can you sound like him? On MadTV, I played Chris a couple times. But then in cartoons, I did a character in King of the Hill that Chris had done once, but then he wasn't going to keep doing it. So then they brought me in to impress him. And he did that great animated movie, Osmosis Jones. And when they decided to make a cartoon TV series of it, he was too busy or, not available. And then I came in. I guess maybe they knew he can sound just like Chris Rock. So I got to do Ozzy and Drix.
That's so cool. That's so cool, man. You have so many great stories. I want to start talking about your work in voice acting and animation because, my gosh, there's just so much to talk about. Like I said, over 500 acting credits, a lot of that coming from the world of voice acting and animation. How has voice acting and your animation work kept your on-camera know-how sharp? Because I know you've gone back to do on-camera work, like I said, most recently in Logic's film, on Paradise Records, and tons of other stuff. So how has voice acting kept your on-camera know-how sharp?
Well, it's interesting because, like I told you before about the cartoon back in the 80s, doing cartoons didn't feel like voice acting. It was just talking on a mic. But the world got better of cartoons. Acting and storytelling became more like movies. You got to feel so much more in cartoons. And that was because of great creators like Bruce Timm. When he did Batman the Animated Series, that was so much more acting than cartoons had been before that. When I got started in the cartoons, I remember early on getting to work on a show for the creator of The Simpsons, and I was in a room with the great guy Billy West. And in the first episode of Futurama, he was voicing three different characters. Usually in cartoons, when they have you do three characters, it's three different scenes. But Billy was doing three people talking to each other and three completely different voices coming out of his throat. I was like, woo! That basically felt as good as being in a scene on set with Sam Jackson. Like, I'm learning something.
Billy West is probably one of my, like, of course you inspire me, but Billy West is just like, I could listen to Billy West talk for like hours. Like, I love how funny, how insightful, and just like dedicated to this gig he is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to experience his mastery like tons of times over doing Futurama, and I'm sure you guys have run
Right.
across each other like doing conventions and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
Billy West is just someone that like really inspires me to like get better at my craft, as I'm sure he did with you when you had that
Yeah.
moment of
Well,
him.
yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, basically, if they hadn't credited him as the multiple characters in Futurama, people would think they were all being voiced by different people.
Which is so brilliant. Speaking of brilliance, I want to talk about your work in the world of adult animation. And you've talked about how the perception of animation overall has changed and stuff, especially with us getting like a lot of a more adult animated cartoons like Family Guy and Futurama and The Simpsons. And it's so interesting to me because oftentimes a lot of adult animation lasts for like decades. Family Guy has been going on since the late 90s. Futurama has gone and come back multiple times. Simpsons
Yeah.
is still going strong to this very day. What is the brilliance of adult animation, and how is it pushing the needle of animation history forward?
Well, Joshua, I love that you can say adult animation these days because back in the old days, people would think cartoons are for kids. No, no, no. I'm old enough to drink. I ain't gonna watch a cartoon. But now, people of whatever ages can take in and enjoy animation. Like I said, animation since the 90s got better acting and better storytelling. Although it's so interesting to hear people talk about, come up to me talking about Samurai Jack. It's like, you know, they're older now, but it's like, when I was little, my dad would be watching this cartoon and always want to watch it with me. Because Genndy Tartakovsky was creating a wonderful, amazing world, just like the Avatar people had.
Oh, absolutely. I want to dive into your work now with Futurama as Hermes Conrad. What a unique character, and I love the story of you creating his voice and vocality. What pieces of your lived experience does Hermes represent and make him as a character so special to you?
Well, when we first auditioned, it was just the Futurama business accountant Dexter. But you know, as it came along, I realized they were creating this idea. Well, in the 1,000 years from now in the world, any business needs to have a bureaucrat for it to run right. And you know, after, once we started the show, they said, no, let's make this bureaucrat more interesting. Phil, can you do a Jamaican accent? And well, like we were saying before about diversity and representation, they decided, no, we're gonna show diversity in the future. And it was great. Well, it was also wonderful that they got Dawn Lewis to play Hermes' wife, because Dawn's family was from Jamaica.
That's such a cool for full circle moment, and I'm glad that you've gotten to portray this character through his various iterations and different streaming platforms and channels that Futurama has been on throughout the many years since his return. You know, it's interesting watching Hermes grow and change and shift as most characters do. What's a character moment that Hermes had that represents who he truly is at his core?
It was interesting because at first, when he was going to be the accountant or the bureaucrat of the business, I thought he would be a negative character. But they decided not to do that. No, let's give him the accent. Let's make him interesting. Let's give him a family. And it was funny because there was this one episode where Hermes was upset about his bureaucrat number. I got to get up to 36. And he took all the Futurama people to the bureaucrat office building. But they let us sing a song. I had never done musicals in high school, but now being up there singing alongside Katie Seagal, Billy West, and Dawn Lewis, you're like, woo! Now I'm a singer.
Oftentimes, which is the case with a lot of animation, I'm sure you can attest. There's always like a song somewhere being
Mm,
sung. If it's not by you, it's by one of your other castmates in the room.
right,
It's so
right.
funny. It's like the Disneyfication of animation, because you know a lot of
Mm,
the early Disney movies had and still do. You know, they continue the
mm.
legacy of having like songs and such in it. It's really cool.
That's funny. Yeah, well, like I said, you know, animation got because back in the old days, Bugs Bunny never sang. No, no, no. Cartoons are for little kids. They don't need to listen to music.
I'm glad that the overall perception of animation has gotten better, because it's crazy what we've gotten from like Arcane. I mean, that is crazy. Even K-pop Demon Hunter is like doing numbers. The Spider-Man movies with Miles Morales in theaters and stuff. Even like anime, it's so crazy to see how big anime is now. Like
Yeah.
the Demon Slayer movie made more money than most movies did that year. Like having set, it was crazy to watch that. Like even me, you know, with my 23-year-old self, it's crazy to watch how fast anime has
Mm,
gotten, because when I was a kid, it was just like Dragon Ball and Naruto and like the basic stuff. But now everyone's watching so many different things like Jujutsu
mm,
Kaisen and like Demon Slayer and
mhm.
Solo Leveling. Like there's just such a variation of programming now for people to enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get a chance to watch the new Spider-Man cartoon.
I did.
It's so great. It feels to me like, oh damn, Jeff, I'm gonna start calling you Stan Lee because it's as good as the comic books were at the beginning.
It's even in the style of a comic book, which I really love. The art
Mhm,
style of it too is a really unique take on the Spider-Man cartoons. It kind of
mhm,
reminds me of the old Neil Patrick Harris Spider-Man cartoon back in the day when the Sam Raimi movies were coming out. It kind of has that same style. Obviously, the Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is more stylized to look like a comic book, which is so cool. I'm so
mhm.
excited for season 2. I know you can't say anything if you're in it or
Yeah.
not, but I'm
Well,
very
but I'm so proud of that cartoon. I'm feeling like, ooh, this cartoon's so good, it's gonna get us another Spider-Man movie.
and we're getting Brand New Day in the next few months. I'm so excited to see that. They have Punisher. I'm so excited to see Punisher in a
Ooh.
Spider-Man movie. Like that
Oh,
is
wow.
so cool. Because I have for the first convention I ever went to, I got to meet, I think his name is Jerry Conway. I believe is his name, is the comic book creator of the Punisher,
Oh.
co-creator, and he created that iconic comic panel where the Punisher has like
Ooh.
the gun on the Spider-Man cover, and like Spider-Man is in the crosshairs of his gun.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
really excited to see that in
Mhm.
Brand New Day. But we're gonna nerd out about all that comic book stuff some more as we keep going. But I want to go back to your work in the world of adult animation, focusing now on Family Guy, of course, as
Mm.
Ollie Williams. What has working with Seth MacFarlane, who has gone on to do some great stuff, especially with Ted and stuff? What has
Mhm.
working with Seth MacFarlane taught you about comedy and the key to adult animation success?
I had actually done some little 5 minute thing with Seth for the Nickelodeon or something. But then later, one of our MadTV Foxx executives came up to us and said, "Guys, I'm going to bring this great young animation guy into Foxx. Could you guys come do some characters on the pilot presentation we're putting together for him?" And this executive got me and Alex Borstein to go do the pilot for Family Guy. And it was great to see somebody who could write that good and voice that good. Because, I mean, later I did Ollie, but in that first thing I was playing like a judge and some neighbors. Seth was so good. I mean, it's funny because usually when you got a great written script, you don't get to see, like, ain't nobody ever saw Shakespeare perform.
And you have Seth MacFarlane performing Peter, Stewie, and Brian. It's like, oh my gosh, like that's
Right?
talent right there, and he does it so well.
Mhm.
And then especially what he did with American Dad and voicing the characters there and creating
Mhm.
that. It's so interesting to see where Seth MacFarlane's creations lay now, because he more so like voices on Family Guy more so than writing on it. And I don't know if I don't think he writes on American Dad anymore either.
Oh.
But he of course he voices Stan, which
Oh,
is
wow.
man.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe he doesn't get credited as writers and everything, but he is the producer, so he gets to read whatever else anybody else writes and probably help suggest them to make it even better.
Right.
Here, let's have him do this, because he's so smart. It's funny that he's that smart, but also that talented. He can do multiple characters and he can sing.
Oh man, he's a great singer. To go back
Yeah.
to Logic, he did a
Yeah.
song with Logic, yeah, and he
Mm-hmm.
sounded so good. He sounded great.
Mm-hmm. He's so talented. And I was working on a voice thing with Logic that Logic wrote really well. And I knew he knew Seth MacFarlane. I'm like, oh, Logic, man, you're such a great writer. This story is so good. You should get your friend Seth to make this into a live action movie because he does that nowadays. But Logic just made his own live action movie that he wrote, directed, and starred in. And yeah, find the other rapper who's ever done that.
I've been a fan of Logic for a long time, especially musically. I still gotta check out the film, I do. But it's so awesome to see his love for voice actors. Like, especially his collaboration with Steve Bloom has been so amazing to
Yeah.
witness. Like he's kept Steve Bloom on all of his stuff,
Mhm.
and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's such a blessing. Well, Steve is the one who introduced me to Logic. My other benefit, sorry, from getting to work with Logic is when I went to do a scene in his movie, he printed this for me and gave it to me. A-
Oh my
he printed a comic
gosh.
book cover. I'm like, oh, wow. Dude, yeah, you so good. You should definitely be called Bobby Tarantino.
I'm glad that he's gotten to work with you, because I remember this was years ago, but in the comments section, I think like Steve wished you happy birthday, and Logic was in the comments, and he was like,
Oh.
"Oh man, I love Phil Lamarr so much. I wish he knew I existed." And then like fast forward, and you guys have worked on a few things together, so it's awesome to see that come full circle for him. When's the when's the last time you've worked on Family Guy?
Oh, actually, I think I've probably done American Dad more recently than I've done because I think they stopped doing the news things. Like, it was Seth playing the newsman, Lori Allen playing the news lady, and I was the weatherman.
Right.
But yeah, I guess maybe they've just stopped having the Family Guy people watch the TV or whatever. But yeah, I haven't done it lately.
Mm. What makes Ollie Williams such a beloved character and a proper example of comedic timing?
It was so great. Seth had the Black You Weather forecast and just wanted me to do uh, a angry weather thing. It's gonna rain. Never had anything else like that. No character like that before. So that was funny.
The Family Guy series is great, but I want to talk about a real underrated show with you. I'm a huge King of the Hill fan, and it was
Oh,
so awesome to see you play a couple characters in King of the Hill. I'm trying to remember their names. Help me. Who do you play in King of the Hill? You play it starts with an R.
oh right, yeah. Oh, that was the Chris Rock character.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. And you came back for the reboot as well, which was so cool. I was happy to see that you were in the credits for the new series that came out. How did you end up on King of the Hill, and how did you end up on the reboot?
Well, actually, both times it was coming back to do that character that Chris Rock had initially done. I don't know if he didn't want to do cartoons or just they didn't have time to take him off set and stick him in a recording studio.
It's interesting because I remember when Chris Rock made a comment that kind of got voice actors a bit
Hmm.
flustered, where he was like, "Oh, I could do voice acting in my pajamas," kind of a thing, and then people were
Hmm.
like, no, like you're wrong, and it is what goes into voice acting and such and stuff. So I wonder if that's what played into it. It's interesting to see definitely that you've gotten to play all of those characters that Chris Rock doesn't want to do. I mean, more work, more film, more content in our lives is for the better, anyways. So
Well, and also, like I was saying about being lucky, getting to work on a cartoon with the creator of the show The Office, which I loved, and Mike Judge was fantastic. He was like Seth, another great writer and actor.
because he plays Hank, which is really
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
I remember when I found that out, I was like, that is trippy. That is really trippy. In addition to your work in adult animation, you've done a lot of work in video games. The earliest video game you did was, and I can't remember the name of the project, but it was in the 90s. It was like a military type of shooter game. It
Oh.
was, let me look it up real quick. I'm sorry, this is gonna bother me. Because I know the name of it. It was
Well, the big game that I was a fan of was Metal Gear, and I got lucky that a casting director who I had worked with on cartoons mentioned that she was casting on a video game. I'm like, Metal Gear? That's a great game. Could I audition for that?
and you got to play the great role of Vamp,
Yeah.
which we're gonna get into. What's been the most impressive aspect with you starring in so many games? What's been the most impressive aspect of watching the growth of the gaming industry? Because now
Oh.
games have gone from like minimal dialogue to full soliloquies
Yeah.
and like 20-30 hour pieces of content.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I felt like Metal Gear made games have more acting, you know? I'm like, whoa, this Japanese game is incredible. But I feel like we were talking about how animation got better performance wise. I feel like now video games have gotten more worlds for us to feel, as opposed to just being about the buttons you push with your fingers.
Vamp is such an interesting character because his background is very tragic. A lot of these characters in the game have a very tragic background. He survived off of sucking the blood of his dead family in like this church and stuff. And he comes from Romania, of course, for like,
That's
Dracula
amazing
shit
you
and stuff.
remember all that, Joshua.
Hey, I do my research with these characters, and I love gaming so much. It's such an essential aspect of my being, especially now. I play tons of like with Marvel Rivals. I play that and Fortnite, which I know you play Kahn in Fortnite. One of the skins, which is for the to save the world. They don't. I don't know when the last time they did the. It was like the campaign version of Fortnite. When you have a character like Vamp that has this expansive lore and can oftentimes feel like really fictitious and out there, what is the challenge of keeping a character like Vamp grounded in reality?
The good thing was having a background in a video game character, because usually you don't have scenes necessarily. You just do sounds. This is you attacking. This is you getting hit. You know. But yeah, they gave that great background to Vamp and saw what he was going to do to Snake.
And he has a cool outfit too. I love his outfit. I think that was one of the most impressive things about looking at Vamp was like how much like kind of like his outfit like informed a lot of his character. What's the most intriguing aspect of Vamp's background and abilities as a character? 'Cause I know he's super fast, he drinks blood, he
Well, I mean, I think the most incredible thing was that Hideo Kojima gave a villain background. In most games, you don't find out about the thing you got to fight against.
it's awesome to see that he's really pushed the narrative forward in a lot of ways. He
Yeah.
really is an industry titan, and it's cool to see what he's doing now. I mean, he's getting to work with Jordan Peele now in a new video game coming out, and they're doing like a
Oh,
horror.
really?
Yeah, they're doing like a horror
Oh, that's going to
video.
be great.
Yeah, they're doing like a horror esque video game together, which is so exciting.
Well, I know Jordan can do anything. Movies,
Anything.
improv, sketches, or video games. And they all going to be great.
All gonna be great. When we speak about Vamp, we oftentimes think of Blood, but another franchise that you've been a part of, where you think about Blood, is Mortal Kombat. We've taken on the role of Kotal Kahn and Geras. Of course, you got introduced to the franchise in Mortal Kombat X as Kotal Kahn. What keyed you into Kotal Khan's vocality, and what did those early recording sessions for the character look like?
I just got described what the character was going to do. Because, in video games, you don't get a script. But those were good people to work with.
As an individual, Kotal Khan had a very interesting story in keeping the character and taking over under the Outworld from Shao Kahn. Of course, he took on the Kotal Khan's name. As an individual, how did you relate to Kotal Khan's dedication for truth and justice, while also showing that he has this sense of like you're not gonna mess with me? Because he was a really powerful character. He had that great like uh Aztecian axe with the spikes on the side of it. So how did you relate to Kotal Khan's pursuit?
Well, no, just lucky to be working on a video game and they give you the feels and the worlds as opposed to just having you scream. This was good storytelling and fighting.
Especially when there's I think it's so cool that Mortal Kombat now has these scenes. I want to transition into Mortal Kombat 1 where you took on the role of Geras. What was that conversation like? Because I know Dave B. Mitchell played Geras, the sand time guy that reversed time and stuff. What were the conversations like to take over that character?
You just get handed whatever is needed. With the improv and sketch background, you're always ready to jump to whatever new character.
There's so many types of genre of game that you've got to explore. What's a genre of video game that you have yet to explore that you would like to dive more into? You've done fighting games, you've done the more cinematic games. I want to see you do like an open world game, like a Batman Arkham type of game. I think it'd be really cool to see you
Well,
do.
it's interesting. I mean, like I said, back in the old days, I was begging to be in Metal Gear because I loved playing it. But it's interesting that nowadays there's lots of video game versions of cartoons or cartoon characters. Usually these days, how I wind up in a video game, it's like, oh, you're taking the character off a TV and putting them into your PlayStation. All right.
Like when you got to do Aquaman for the Injustice video games, that was super cool. I loved the Injustice video games because it brought back a lot of you guys. Like Susan came back as Wonder Woman, and George Newbern did Superman, and of course Kevin came back as
Yeah.
Batman. What a phenomenal Batman! My gosh, I still feel like, I still feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it was funny that they brought a bunch of us from our cartoons in there, but thankfully, because of Young Justice, I had gotten to play Aquaman alongside Kari Payton's Aqualad.
which I love that dynamic you two have, and it's so funny to hear that you originally auditioned for Aqualad in that show.
Oh, you saw that post?
Yeah, it's really cool to see you. And then you also got to play Black Manta for the Harley Quinn show as well, which is you've done a lot of stuff in the world of Aquaman. It's really awesome to see. You got to play a lot. You've played a lot in the world of DC, but you've also gotten to play a lot in the world of Cartoon Network,
Mm.
which from
Well,
Billy and Mandy to
well,
yeah.
I guess I don't know if my dream had come to life, there would have been some channel called Comic Book Network
Because a lot of
for
the
this nerd.
because a lot of that comic book content that you've done was airing on Cartoon Network, like
Yeah.
Justice League and Young
Mhm.
Justice uh, and Static Shock. Yeah. It was
Well,
on
I
there.
mean, yeah, that was really sort of silly of me back in the old days. I wish I had been more of reading the Milestone comics once they had gotten created, because getting to work on the animated version of it, Static Shock with Dwayne McDuffie and Dennis Cowan, I felt like, oh my God, they making Saturday morning cartoons as good as Stan Lee made comic books better with Spider-Man.
The legacy that Static Shock has left has been amazing. You've had a long tenure with Cartoon Network, especially appearing most recently in Craig of the Creek, which is another great show. I love Craig of the Creek. Me and my friends are
Yeah.
huge fans of the show. What's been the
Mm.
most rewarding and valuable artistic lessons and experiences that you've taken from your time on Cartoon Network?
I mean, the most was working with Genndy Tartakovsky, because that was the first time auditioning for a cartoon. You got to see some amazing visual animated stuff. Because usually back in the days when you do a cartoon, you don't get to see nothing till 9 months or a year after you talk on the mic. For Samurai Jack, Genndy had already started visually creating the world as he was casting us. And also getting to be in a booth with a fantastic actor, Mako, who had starred on Broadway and in Conan movies, and everything was incredible. Although sadly, Samurai Jack stopped because Cartoon Network pulled Genndy Tartakovsky off to start creating Star Wars animation. And I mean, he did that so well that there's still Star Wars cartoons now. But 12 years later, he got to come back and finish the Samurai Jack mission. Yes, 50 years have passed, and I do not age. But the one problem of us coming back after so many years, ending the series, was we had lost Mako. But we got the great Greg Baldwin, who was so good. He was better doing Mako voices than I was even doing Chris Rock voices. He was doing Mako's character in Avatar, and then he started doing Mako's character in Samurai Jack, and his voice was so good that one time when Mako's daughter was in the recording booth, you could See, she was feeling like hearing her dead father's voice.
I love when Greg tells that story about his daughter coming up to him and giving him that validation for doing a really great job. When Jack came back, there was a more mature tone to the series. It was a bit more violent, a
Yeah.
bit more
Mhm.
as you know the lead.
Well,
It's
Genndy basically was giving a version of the series. Well, all of our kids who used to love the cartoon, they're now 12 years older. So let's make that for them now.
as the titular, Samurai Jack. Were you nervous that the show was going to be a more mature? Were you nervous about it maybe losing? Okay.
No, not nervous. Although it was great to find out. Okay, he's still the nice hero, but he's undergoing some stuff, fighting against this evil wizard, but also falling in love.
Glad
So that
that
was some great stuff to act.
I'm glad that Genndy could, as great as a creative as he is, could ease any fears. Because that's what I was scared about. I was scared that with Samurai Jack coming back and it being a bit more mature in tone, I was scared that it was going to lose what made it so special. But it didn't.
Ooh, yeah.
It stayed true
Mhm.
to his original vision. And I'm
Yeah.
so happy about that. How has the legacy of Samurai Jack gotten better with time? Especially with
Mhm.
you coming back and doing conventions. I'm sure you hear all the time about how many people love Samurai Jack. So, how
Yeah.
has the character gotten better with time?
It's always a pleasure. And I guess we haven't come back and done any more Samurai Jack because we had this man from ancient Japan finally finish his mission. So, not just more episodes. He defeated Aku.
And then you got to do Samurai Jack for the what was that fighting game? Multiverses. You got to come back to do him for a little bit for the video
Mm,
game, which was a ton of fun. Samurai Jack, of course, is Asian man, a marginalized man, and you are a marginalized man yourself. So, what pieces of your soul and lived experiences as a black man help you better relate to the character Samurai Jack's struggles and trials and tribulations throughout the series?
well, it's interesting because there was an ethnicity, but it wasn't about Aku never mentioned his ethnicity. I definitely felt good doing the voice of someone from Japan still speaking English with so a little bit of an accent. But that came to me so well because I was in the booth with Mako, and also I had been part of a comedy group in LA called Cult of Tofu, which was predominantly Japanese, but they also had people of other different colors in it. And so I would do performances with them. But I remembered getting to hear how people who grew up listening to hearing Japanese sounded speaking English. And so I made sure to do that for Genndy.
Oh man, Samurai Jack is great, but another show that really means a lot to me is Foster's Home for Imaginary Kids with
Mm,
Walt. I think that show is just amazing, especially the world. We're talking a lot about the crafting of worlds, but the world of Foster's Home for Imaginary Kids is so
yeah.
true to our experiences as kids. Having an imaginary friend or crafting worlds that we embody. How did the
Mhm.
energy of this series influence not only your performance, but the chemistry of the cast around you? You had some great people in the show, like
Yeah,
Grady
Tom Kenny.
Lyle and Tom Kenny, Tom
Mhm.
Kane, Keith Ferguson.
Yeah.
Great cast. So, how did the energy of
Mm.
this series influence all of you guys?
I don't know if it was just being in the room with so many great people just made everything feel good. But also, the creators are great. Although, I think all of us at our age had never actually had imaginary friends as children, but they made this great world of all these imaginary friends. One of them, even by Michael Jordan.
Which I guess leads perfectly into my next question. Who are some basketball legends that Wilt reminds you of? or that you channel when you're performing him.
Well, it's funny. I ain't never heard no basketball or any kind of big sport guy talk about growing up with imaginary friends. But maybe they did, and
Yeah,
that helped him be as good.
I love the voice you do for. How did you create his voice? Because it's very much yours, but it's kind of like it's like softer. It's like a little bit more
Oh,
melancholy,
Will
kind
Smith?
of. Yeah, yeah. So how did you craft that?
Just working with the creators and Andrea Romano. It's like, how should I sound? Like this, Phil. Oh, okay. Yes. Is that okay?
Ah, I love it. I love it. I was so happy when you came back for that episode in Jellystone where they did the crossover with all the Cartoon Network characters. It was so
Oh,
cool to see you
wow.
reprise your role as that. I think Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends really lends itself to like a reboot. I think it
I
would really
wish.
be. I If they were to ever reboot the series, what would you like to see them do for the show to fit in the modern era?
I would just love for us to come back to the Foster house. Because it was so sweet. Whether you had kids come or just the friends.
It's amazing to see how sweet it was and how kind it was.
Mhm.
It felt like a warm hug, you know. That show just feels like a real warm hug for everyone out there.
Well, I mean, well, I'm just surprised that really good show with somebody as great as Tom Kenny didn't didn't keep going as long as SpongeBob.
Oh my God, SpongeBob has been the MVP of cartoons for so
Yeah.
long.
SpongeBob is still on a show, but also on stage and on movies.
They just had a movie come out
Mhm.
last a few it came out this year, right? No, it came out for Christmas. It came out for Christmas. There we go. It came
Oh,
out for
Christmas.
Christmas of last year. I was so happy to see Tom Kenny like do a press
Oh.
run. You know, it was so it's oftentimes now voice actors don't really get the recognition for playing these animated characters. So to see him
Yeah.
on like Kelly Clarkson's show and like sitting
Mm,
next to Mark Hamill. It just meant so much to me to see because you know you guys
yeah.
really do deserve the recognition. You know that's one of the reasons
Mm,
I made this channel. That's because I want all of you guys to get your flowers and your recognition and the flowers. I feel like Hollywood doesn't really give you guys because we don't see your face. So it's like, oh, who cares? But it's like you guys are important. You guys are essential to these characters, you know, and
mm.
it wouldn't be the same without you guys. So I really appreciate every single voice actor out there who's brought to life these amazing characters. I wish
Well,
Hollywood.
and it's also, I think somebody with the talent like Tom Kenny, who is a great comedian and singer. So he's great on a mic. That's why he's such a great voice actor.
One of the best. One of the best. I want to know if you remember this show. Now, I grew up uh, on Chowder, and you played. Oh, that face is not a good sign. Oh, I don't think you remember.
Oh,
It's okay. Ah, Chowder.
oh,
So
dang it.
Chowder.
I'm trying to remember what year we did Chowder.
Chowder was like I want to say like 06, 07. You played like this
Oh.
rat. You played this bank teller.
Uh,
You played like a lot of like You did bit parts on this show, and you did like a
mm,
few episodes. So
oh,
I'm not sure. I guess you don't. It was so long ago, so I didn't expect. But
yeah.
I was just curious because that show really was really cool, and
Mhm.
I remember going
And it had
back.
good people.
You had Tara Strong, good Dwight
Mm-hmm.
Schultz, and you had John
John
DiMaggio.
DiMaggio.
Yeah, and there
Yeah.
as well. There, yeah. So, but you know, in addition to what you did with the original program, you got to do Transformers on Cartoon Network as well as
Oh, yeah.
Jazz, Alpha Trion, and Omega
Hmm.
Supreme. What was your
Yeah.
experience with Transformers before booking the show? Had you seen the Michael Bay movie and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the one interesting thing was they definitely made sure for me not to do an impression of the great black actor who originally had done jazz.
Catman Crothers, yes sir,
Yeah. It's like, no, no,
sir.
no, Phil, don't. I think I probably came in starting out trying to do my Scatman. I said, no, 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 no.
you've gotten the chance to embody the roles of many characters that have a great lineage before you. And I'm curious, with I guess using Jazz as an example, because you would later go on to do Hong Kong Fooey, which is another Scatman Crothers character. What is the balance of continuing the legacy of these characters and of these performances, but also staying true to your legacy as a performer as well?
Well, I mean, your job is always to take in the story, the feel, not just, I just want to come in and do me. This is how I'm feeling. This is, no. Yeah, just be a part of the world that they've created.
Be a part of it, be collaborative. That's what the arts is all about, just creating your own universe. I know with a
Well,
big
and when you are working with great writers, creators, it is easier to get into that world and feel how to be and sound.
Absolutely. I know was a while ago, so if you don't remember the process of getting these characters, it's perfectly fine. But with Transformers animated, of course, you play Jazz, Omega
Yeah,
Supreme,
and a
and Alpha
couple, yeah.
Trine, and
Mhm.
Jetstorm. Who came first, and how did you get to play so many of the Autobots on that show?
Well, I mean, it was just a regular process. We all just came in together, and I know that me and Tom were doing a couple of different ones.
Yeah, because Tom, you played Jetstorm and he played Fire. He played Jetfire, and you guys were like twins together, which was cool.
Right, right.
I love your jazz, by the way. I gotta say, I'm a huge
Oh,
fan of your
thanks, man.
jazz, and I would love if they brought you back. I if you couldn't tell, I'm a huge Transformers fan by all the figures behind me. But Jazz is such a hold on. Let me. Can I grab him? You're gonna fall, aren't
Ooh,
you?
woo,
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, there we go. There he is. Jazz is such a cool
yeah.
character. Yeah, I love me some Jazz. What a cool character. I think my issue with as a fan, much of a fan of as I am of Transformers, I just think
Mm,
it's kind of strange how like they don't bring back voice actors that have played the characters as much,
right.
except for like Peter and Frank, and even then sometimes they don't bring back them to do
Oh,
Optimus and Megatron. So I would love
hmm.
to see your take on Jazz because it's interesting how everyone who plays Jazz pays tribute to Scatman Crothers initially. Like they want to do a Scatman Crothers. What does Scatman mean to you as a performer? Did you like grow up watching his stuff, or were you,
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I was probably thinking to do Scatman like I was did Red Fox,
it's
but
instinctual?
I was told not to.
And of course, you created your own beautiful lane with Jazz. I'm a huge fan of his design and animated as well, and
Oh, thanks.
I really love how he
Okay,
looks.
well, thank you for not being mad at me not for not doing a good impression, Josh.
No, no, no. That's the beauty of voice acting, It's like everyone gets to do their own interpretations and
Right.
iterations of the characters.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, sometimes, although sometimes you bring back, like Eric Bauza is doing the great Mel Blanc voices.
Mel Blanc is such a phenomenon. Like, it's so
Yeah.
crazy how he played all those. I was
Well,
talking
yeah,
to.
Mel Blanc is the only reason any of us still do voice acting. He was the first one to make it voice acting.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I was talking to Maurice Lamarr, who I'm sure you've worked with tons of times, and he was
Mhm.
talking about how it's crazy how like it takes like five different guys to play characters. It took Mel Blanc. It just took him to play, and it was just it was just so funny because it's
Mhm.
true. Like even Eric Bauza can't play all the Looney Tunes characters. Like Fred does Yosemite Sam, and Bob
Mm.
Bergen has been doing Porky Pig for years, and Jeff Bergman has done. What's his name? The Rooster. He plays the Rooster. Foghorn Leghorn. There we go. There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's done him a numerous amount of times as well. Your legacy in Cartoon Network and animation is unrivaled, but your work in the world of comic books, I think, is some of the best. The first time I ever met you was at MomoCon Atlanta in 2022,
Oh,
and you
nice.
gave me this signed
Oh,
John Stewart. I love what you've done in
Well,
the
I'm
world of DC. I think
well, Joshua. I'm glad we got to meet. It
I'm
was the brightest day and blackest night.
I'm so glad that they bring you back because I know you did him for Superman Red Sun, where he's like in the Soviet Union universe, and then you did it for the Injustice games as well, which is awesome. I'm just glad that they paid tribute to you because I think you're the first one to ever play John Stewart, if I'm correct. I
Hmm.
think you are. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you are, or
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
play him
Well,
in.
because
Yeah.
that was the first time they put that Green Lantern into animation. Because Bruce Timm had the vibe that this would be the diverse Justice League, and that's why Hawkgirl was Latino.
Which is so interesting. A lot of times you hear now in society, people are like, "Oh, this is woke, this is woke, this is DEI." But it's like if you go back to like the cartoons of the 2000s, Static Shock was a young black man as the lead of the series.
Right.
Justice League had two female leads, one Latino, and a black man on the show. So
Mhm.
I hate how performative a lot of these like outrage or rage baiters are, where they're like, "Oh, this is woke, this is trash," because there's a leading woman or a leading
What?
black person in the project. Because we've gotten that for years. It's just ridiculous to be so upset about it.
Oh
It's
wow.
just this frustrating. It's the culture. I think of the culture of fandom can sometimes be a bit toxic, as I'm sure you're aware. Some fans can be a
Hmm.
bit strange,
Wow.
especially in regards to how they feel about diversity. But I see all the cool characters you've played, especially in like the Marvel universe. No, before I get too excited about John Stewart, I do want to go to your work in Marvel with
Hmm.
the X-Men. That was the first, I
Oh
think,
yeah.
that
Wolverine and
was
the X-Men. Yeah.
Wolverine. And oh my gosh, your Gambit is
Mm.
probably
Mm.
the coolest Gambit out there. Like, I just
Aw,
love
thanks.
what you've done as, oh man, like I grew up on Wolverine and the X-Men. That was my first, I think that was my first X-Men show ever, and then I got into the later stuff like the X-Men 90s and X-Men Evolution
Mm.
and stuff like that. But
Right.
Gambit is just my favorite voices that you do, and I want to nerd out about the voices you do. My favorite type of voices that people give you is when you're playing like a character with swagger or like royalty, like Aquaman or like a Kotal Kahn or stuff. I just love that stuff. Like you eat that
Aw,
up, and with Gambit, you
thank
bring this
you.
this massive amount of like swagger to the role. Did you with Wolverine and the X-Men? Did you get to record with the group? Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah. With Steve.
Oh my god, that makes me really happy because I know nowadays like group recordings are kind of a rarity because everyone's recording from home now. But I'm glad you got to work with like Steve and who else was on that show. There were a lot of people on Wolverine and
Yeah.
the X-Men. But you not only played Gambit, you played Bolivar Trask, who was that like evil scientist guy as well, which was really cool to see you balance that. Um,
Yeah. Well, like I said, sometimes they'll just have you do multiple characters.
Right, multiple characters, right. For Gambit, do you remember uh crafting that Louisiana like voice and accent? Do you have any like family members who are from Louisiana, or like did you grow up watching anything like that, or just how did the voice of Gambit come to you? Of course, you have the great creators that tell you what they want, but like that voice
Right.
just comes it sounds so natural, when it comes from you.
Well, I think it was probably me doing what because I read all those comics. What I thought that guy would sound like because I knew where he was from and
Do you,
what he was doing.
Can you give us a little hint of Gambit? Do you remember what it sounded like?
Oh, sorry. It's decades ago. I don't remember the lines.
Oh no, 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 it's fine. Yeah, the last time we played Gambit was in the Lego Marvel video game that came out in like 2012. So, uh yeah, you done Gambit a lot. You did him in X-Men Destiny and a bunch of these games. I love your Gambit so much. With the X-Men, I think what's so cool about the X-Men is how they represent our struggles as black men, because there's something that they can't control that they're often judged by. I think it's such a neat allegory to see what the X-Men represent. So with Gambit and you have reading the comics, how does Gambit fit into the overall narrative of the X-Men and the struggles that we face as marginalized men?
Well, I mean, I was just, you know, psyched to be able to play that role because I always felt that Gambit was very different from the X-Men in the comics. He was this different dude, this guy about sales and stuff.
Even where he came from was unique to the X-Men. Everyone is like from Canada or like the South, and Gambit's just like all over there in Louisiana. Dormammu, I'm a huge Dormammu fan. You got to do him in the cartoons, and you've done him for a few video games. When you play Dormammu, when you're playing a character that is so villainous as him, what is it like to get in the shoes of like Dormammu and just bringing such an evil villain to life like that?
Yeah, well, you always try to get as much information as you can about the character's background. Because, like I said, with video games, you don't get to read scripts, or with cartoons, you do. And you get as much background, but also, hopefully, they will tell you where this guy is going. What's he going to do? And that's how it's like, oh, he's going to get aggressive? All right, well, I'm going to make him aggressive. That's how you make your decisions.
It's also like with a character you played a while ago, Wonder Man. I'm not sure if you remember for the
Oh.
Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon, you played Jarvis,
Ah,
and then you played Wonder Man, and now we have the Wonder Man TV show on Disney Plus that came out.
ah.
It's so awesome to see a lot of the characters you played come to life
Oh,
in live
wow.
action.
That's amazing that you're bringing those up. Well, I'm surprised that, well, because since you had such a fantastic talk with Rob Paulson, I'm surprised you haven't brought up Baxter Stockman, the
Oh,
the
but
the one black guy in the Ninja Turtles.
well, then let's get into Baxter, man. Like Baxter is a really cool character. How were you approached for the role of Baxter?
Well, I came into it after, well, because there were a bunch of different times of doing the Ninja Turtles, and somebody else had done Baxter probably 10 years before. I don't know, but when they were doing this current version of the Ninja Turtles, and they had different people doing the Turtles. Then they had someone different come in and do Baxter. The name's Baxter Stockman.
It was cool to see them do him in live action with the Michael Bay films. They got Tyler Perry to do him. Not
Oh,
sure
wow.
Not sure if I would have casted Tyler Perry for Baxter, but it was still cool that they put him with
Yeah.
they showed him with like the fly hand and stuff like that. I love how that's a
Mhm.
consistency. He's just like a fly.
Yeah.
He's just a
Well,
fly.
if they do another cartoon version, they're probably gonna bring him in.
Oh no, if they don't get you as Baxter, I don't want it.
Well,
Respectfully.
he's done it on camera, so
Yeah, well,
I'm sure they think, well, he can just do it on mic too.
it's interesting. Tyler Perry hasn't done voice acting, I don't think, though. Like that's the one celebrity I don't think really gets into those territories and stuff like that
Yeah.
with voice
Yikes.
acting.
Well, and hopefully they won't just take his lines from the movie and have AI make the cartoon lines.
The I'm so sick of this AI stuff, man. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, I'm tired of it.
Mm.
I was researching how a lot of consumer, because people like build computers and PCs at their own home, like you don't have to buy one. And I was looking up, and a lot of the pieces you need for computers, these companies are like striking deals with like these AI firms, and they're no longer selling the parts to the public. It's only going straight to AI. And it's so strange because AI is not making these companies any money.
Right?
I was looking at it, and like OpenAI, which is like the main AI firm, is
This-
not making any profit. It's just so I hate
yeah.
that all of these companies are forcing their way into like AI land and making AI, and it's making them no money. You're putting billions of dollars into a product that is not getting you any money. That'd be like
Right?
you putting money into a studio that makes you sound like garbage and you still putting money into it. That doesn't make
Right?
any sense. That
I
doesn't
know.
make
I guess
any.
they do. Do a lot of people think that AI is just about saving money? That's why we're gonna not pay any actors. We'll just have AI do the thing. Or we're not gonna pay an Uber driver. I'm just gonna ride in a Waymo.
It's you know what's so crazy about those Waymos? I was watching a video and this lady got stuck in one for like 30 minutes. Like she couldn't open the door. She was like
Oh
stuck.
wow!
She was she had to like break the window, but she was like if she didn't break the window, she would have been
Oh my
stuck in there
god!
for like hours, you know? It's like
What?
crazy. Yeah. It's
Yikes!
trippy. It's
That's
just
very trippy.
this stuff is getting
Mhm.
so crazy. And I really hope that like
Well,
legis
feels like the Ubers need to get a union like us actors do and have a strike
I
to
wish.
take down AI.
Because you've been on the picket line a lot with these
Mhm.
strikes. I think even at the 2023 one, you were on the lot a lot. How has AI talks have AI talks gotten any better in the industry since y'all struck in 2023? Or like, how do you feel about where AI is being utilized in the industry? Or just like, what's your overall feeling about AI right now?
Well, the unions have been fighting to make sure that AI doesn't take over in industries and throw people out. So that's worked. I mean, I think there. I mean, it hasn't destroyed AI. People can still do Chat GPT or something, but not replacing. That's just people doing it at home, not replacing somebody's job.
Absolutely. And I like I said, these AI companies are not making any profit. So I'm just waiting
Mm,
for like this bubble to burst. It's so interesting. Us as a society, we keep coming up with these scams,
mm,
Bitcoin, NFTs. But to go back to your work in comic books, and now I want to switch over to your work in DC. With John Stewart and Aquaman and Static Shock. You know, you
thank
were
you.
speaking earlier about working with Dwayne McDuffie, and I know recently it was just the anniversary of his passing. And with what he started with Milestone and Static Shock, you
Mhm.
know, you've often mentioned in interviews how Static Shock would mention very heavy topics regularly and wouldn't treat it as like a special type of event. It was a regular occurrence throughout the show. How do you feel like Static Shock's legacy as a cartoon can be felt in modern day animation? Because we are getting shows that are tackling these very serious topics like drug abuse and racism and misogyny more
Um,
often now since Static Shock. So how do you feel like that series really paved the way for a lot of this stuff?
well, because back in the old days, you wouldn't have things like that in cartoons until Static Shock. It was the most real world cartoon life.
With that, it's just amazing. I remember the episode with Static's friend about racism,
Oh,
and that's
his friend's father.
yeah, his friend's father. Yeah, not him, not him. The fans gonna eat me up. It was not him.
Right?
It was the friend's father. And I love you.
Yeah,
And
that was incredible. Well, and also one of my most incredible episodes was when Static's father took their family to Africa.
I
And
was just
it was
about to mention
amazing
that.
because Kevin Michael Richardson was playing the father. And when the Wilkin family went to Africa, Static, the electric hero, got to meet an African superhero, Anansi. They had Carl Lumley voice that.
I was just about to get into that. That was so cool to see. Was that your first time working with Carl on anything?
Um, oh no, actually, we did Static right before Justice League, but maybe by that episode we were doing both.
So it's awesome that was your first introduction into
Mhm.
Carl's work as
Yeah.
and
Well, and it's always a pleasure to be with Carl or work with Carl because working on the Justice League cartoon, working on the Static cartoon. It's like, oh my God, you're amazing. But also, Carl was the one time I got an on camera job from a voice job. In the Supergirl show, they had a character, they had just stuntmen in costumes playing an evil Martian. Because on the Supergirl show, they had um, a guy playing the on camera version of Carl's cartoon character.
Martian
But
Manhunter, yeah.
yeah, but then they brought in the Martian Manhunter's younger brother just in stunt, and I was just voicing it. But then they came up with a thing. Actually, Phil, we're gonna have the Martian trapped in an Earth body. Would you be willing to come up and play that? I'm like, yeah. So I got to go up to Vancouver and play a young Martian, and Carl was playing the Martian Manhunter's father.
I love the CW shows like bringing in like voice actors and stuff, because that wasn't your first time working. You did Ragdoll on The Flash,
Right.
that character as well, and it's so awesome how they pay tribute to a lot of you guys. Like Kevin Conroy did Batman in one of the CW shows, which is really cool to see him.
Yeah.
And he was playing,
seeing him play Batman on camera was so great.
it was like an evil version of Batman, but it was still cool nonetheless to see them pay tribute to him in that way. I love how DC has done a lot of these tributes, like him doing that comic about him speaking about what Batman meant to him. That was
incredible.
That is one of the most emotional story tributes I've read, was that,
Well, and I loved getting to see Kevin do a comic book, because I felt that Kevin voicing cartoon Batman made Batman as cool as he was in comic books once Neal Adams started drawing him. And it's funny because the drawing of Batman and the sound of Batman were both so great. One time at a Comic-Con, I made sure to introduce them to each other. Neal Adams and Kevin Conroy. Although, well, I guess maybe the fact is that sadly our world has lost both of them. Why we still don't got no good Batman movies.
You don't like Robert Pattinson's Batman movie?
No, it was alright.
Oh, Phil, you're killing me here. Have you seen the Snyder Cut? I have to ask. Have you seen Snyder Cut yet?
What's it?
The Snyder Cut. Have you seen that yet?
No. I gotta go. I'm gonna. Okay. Yeah. After we finish, I gotta go Google a bunch of things.
That was the Snyder Cut was like, so 2017, the Justice League movie came out. Very bad movie. Snyder Cut was because Zack Snyder never got to finish that movie because of some personal issues. So the Snyder Cut was Zack Snyder coming back and adding, finishing the movie, but it made the movie like 4 hours instead of 2. So so it added like a bunch of stuff to it. Added like Darkseid and stuff, and Martian Manhunter was in it, and it teased Jon Stewart for a little bit. Yeah, so it was a lot of cool. I only asked because I saw in an interview.
Why have I not seen that? I'm gonna lose my blurred cap if I don't watch that.
Honestly, in my opinion, if you didn't like the Justice League movie, the Joss Whedon one, I think it'll make it a bit better. But overall,
no, I wasn't against it.
Yeah, you liked the Joss Whedon one? I hated that movie. I hated it. So when I saw the Snyder Cut, I was so happy because I grew up with the version of Justice League that you guys portrayed, and I was so used to how deep it got and the stories you guys told. And when I saw the Joss Whedon version, I was like, I felt like something was missing, And I always pay tribute to the creatives who make these movies. Making a movie is a difficult feat, but I just wish they would have.
I guess the problem was that movie didn't have Andrea Romano directing it.
Yeah, it's crazy that she retired. Like she's not doing stuff anymore.
Yeah, that's tough for us.
She brought to life, like you said, so much great stuff that you've been a part of. Yeah. How did Andrea Romano help make your version of Jon Stewart so much all the more powerful?
Well, she put me in a room with Kevin Conroy, and she would take in my idea of how I knew how big the guy was.
You've left an incredible legacy on the role of Jon Stewart, and I really hope you know that and take that to heart. We're starting to. It's interesting because we're gonna get a live action version of Jon Stewart in a TV show soon.
Really?
If you, yeah, with Aaron Pierre is gonna be playing Jon
Oh, right,
Stewart.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the British
yeah,
guy. Yeah.
yeah.
I kept praying to, I hope I run into him at a con or something. Then I can lend him a Green Lantern ring.
Oh my god, that would be so amazing to see you pass the torch in that way because truly, John my version of Jon Stewart comes from what you guys have established and I'm really expecting that from this series as someone who has
Well,
lived in
and I
this
know I can't play Jon Stewart on camera because I ain't tall enough.
as
Oh,
someone
dang.
who has lived in the skin of Jon Stewart for a very long time. What do you hope they do with Jon Stewart in the live action series?
Um, well, I hope they give him a great story like we did in the cartoon. Well, it was interesting. The one time he was on trial, galaxy wise, also was the time he went back home to Detroit and played some basketball with local friends and stuff. I mean, that gave the comic book hero a life. So hopefully they will do that on camera.
I'm very curious. I'm very excited. Jon Stewart means so much to me,
Oh, thanks.
and I hope they do justice to this character because the Green Lanterns have been done so dirty. They've been done so dirty. Like the animated show got canceled, and then the movie people don't like the Ryan Reynolds movie and
Yeah, well,
stuff
it
like
was interesting that that last Superman movie, Nathan Fillion didn't do Hal Jordan.
he was Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the Superman movie? Did you like it?
I thought it was good.
I mean, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what that movie establishes more so than like what was, like in the movie. Like I'm excited to see Brainiac, and I'm excited to see Lex
Oh, yeah.
Luthor wear the power suit and stuff like that. What is the most profound moment that you have with Jon Stewart? A moment that really resonated with you?
It was probably the episode where Hawk Girl's planet people were attacking Earth, and he got to fight somebody from his girlfriend's army and say, "Kiss my axe."
DC is an amazing franchise that has lasted decades, but you've gotten to play in the world of Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. You've played Kit Fisto, Bail Organa, and Amphita, that big fat blue French guy. It's really cool. But your journey with Star Wars starts with the Knights of the Old Republic video games, where you got to play that bounty hunter as character. As a fan of Star Wars, how does it feel to be a part of the continuing legacy of the franchise? Because you've been in every Star Wars animated show since Clone Wars. You were in Bad Batch, you were in Tales of the Jedi, you were in Rebels, you were in Resistance. You've been in a lot of Star Wars. So how does it feel to help continue the legacy of something that means so much to you?
It was such a joy because I was a big Star Wars fan when I saw it at the age of 10. But it's funny you mentioned DC and Star Wars because those were the two blessings of me. Doing cartoons for DC, I got to finally meet Mark Hamill. And it was incredible to get to be in a recording studio with somebody I had grown up loving. And because there was an episode of Static Shock where Static was fighting with Batman against the Joker. And Mark came in to play the Joker. And that was such a pleasure.
Mark Hamill's legacy as the Joker. Same with Kevin Conroy's. You just can't beat
Yeah.
it. You can't beat it. Like
Well,
it's
his legacy as the Joker, his legacy as Luke Skywalker. Well, and that's why years later, I was so happy to get to play a Jedi.
Kit Fisto.
I'm
What a
like,
great
oh wow,
character.
I can only play a Jedi because once I got to sit next to Mark Hamill.
He gave you that blessing, that good juju to play a Jedi, and you even have a green lightsaber as well. So you know
Yeah.
that got that thing
Well, and it
going.
was also wonderful that George Lucas had this concept that aliens from aquatic planets should sound Caribbean. So, well, this this Jedi is not a bureaucrat. No, he is going to sound different than that bureaucrat.
It's so interesting to see how the Clone Wars. Well, before I ask about the Clone Wars, had you seen the Star Wars like Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith before doing Clone Wars?
Mm-hmm.
So you saw Kid Fisto get like cut
Yeah, so I could just not speak in the on camera.
at all. And
Yeah,
I think what's so interesting about Star Wars now is we're starting to get like these characters coming from the animation to come back and like the voice actors portray them. I know you got to do a couple of voices for the Book of Boba Fett TV series as like
yeah,
the Pikes, and you played that one like dog looking creature.
yeah,
Yeah, that was so
yeah.
cool. That was so cool to like see you in it. I know we're mutual friends of Corey Burton, so to see both you and
Mm,
Corey in the same series was such a real treat for me, especially
yeah,
someone who is a fan. You get to say you're in the Mandalorian like universe of Star Wars.
right. Yeah,
Did
even just to be in it, just on mic, I'm happy to be in the world.
has with the Book of Boba Fett, were you being directed by John Favreau or Dave for those episodes? Do you remember, or was it Robert Rodriguez who was directing
Yeah,
you?
well, they were on Zoom. Robert Rodriguez was there, and Dave.
Oh, that must have been so cool to catch up with Dave after after doing Rebels and stuff like that, playing Bail
Yeah,
Organa. With Kit Fisto, it's so interesting to see you craft your own lane with that character. And the first episode we see of you as Kit Fisto, his Padawan like dies. Like that is just
yeah.
like that is like the craziest thing. How do you think the death of Kit Fisto's Padawan stuck with him after that?
Well, they didn't have him just constantly be sad in every episode after that, but no, it just showed that he had things happen. I don't think he
Yes.
had bad things and he had good things. He defeated that big evil villain, but he also lost the Padawan.
Which I remember watching that, and I remember being like so, because I'm a kid, I was like, I want to say like 11 years old when the clone. No,
All
I was
right.
like 8 or 9 when the Clone Wars came out. So seeing a Padawan die was like
Oh,
trippy. I was like, oh my god, this is like it gets really serious around here. I hope to see you do. I know you continue to do Kit Fisto for like the Lego Star Wars
let's hope.
stuff, so I hope you get to do him some more. I
I
know
hope
Dave
so.
is like bringing a lot of these like prequel characters back, so
Mhm.
hopefully you get to come back.
Yeah.
You've
Well,
had a
you know, as nerdy as I will lovely go back to any of those worlds, get back into those worlds I love. But hopefully, I'll get a chance.
I don't
I
know.
haven't gotten to do a Jedi in a while.
Well, you've like I said, you've been in every Star Wars animated series since then. Darth Maul, the animated show is coming back. Are
Oh,
you in the show?
mm, no,
Oh,
not yet, but hopefully.
they got to keep the tradition going. They got to. They have to. They have to do it with you. You've been in every Star Wars animated show, so they have to keep it going. So let's
Yes.
fingers crossed that you get to keep going. You also
Thank you.
play Bail Organa in the show, taking on the role of Jimmy Smith's character.
Yeah.
How was it studying and preparing to take on the role of Bail Organa?
It was one of those things where they could not get the great on camera star to do the cartoon for some reason. They never said why. I had seen a lot of Jimmy Smith's stuff, and I'd seen him as Bail Organa. So it was back to matching.
It's so interesting with Bail Organa and Onfrita, the big French. Do you remember doing Onfrita? He was like the blue guy with
Oh, the blue guy.
the big fat blue guy. And it's interesting because in Stars you play two opposite sides of the political spectrum. With Bail Organa is more so focused on, you know, advocacy for people and making sure people feel good about themselves. But Amrita was very much like for his own interest and furthering his own goals. What was it like balancing those two different political perspectives when recording for the show?
It wasn't challenging. We just, well, because we got to read the scripts and you got to know what you had to make people feel.
You guys have done a lot of great stuff in the world of Star Wars. Two more questions for you, and then I'm gonna get you up out of here. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. It has been a joy to speak to the living legend in the flesh. There's so much stuff that like Aquaman. I didn't even get to talk about Aquaman with you, but I love Aquaman. That's such a cool character. Um, Gosh, I'm gonna ask this Aquaman question. This is one Aquaman question because I don't want to hold you over. With Aquaman, what is an essential aspect of his character that you have carried with you in your various adaptations of the character?
Well, actually, it was interesting. There wasn't a ton of stuff. He didn't have to sound like there was water in his mouth, and he was not physically huge or small. So I feel like Aquaman sounds very much like me.
Very royal, very strong, very
Mhm.
steadfast. And personally, you're my favorite Aquaman voice. No,
Oh,
like hands
thanks.
down. Like I'm a huge fan of your Aquaman, and I'm so happy that you were cast as Aquaman instead of Aqualad. And it was awesome to see how you and Corey Payton play off of each other in the series, and how you're like that fatherly figure that holds him down. Even
Mhm.
though Black Manta was played by Kevin Michael Richardson, right? In Young Justice, I believe he
Oh, I
was.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Michael Richardson was in that show, so it
Yeah.
was really
Kevin's
cool to.
always good.
Kevin is great, and I guess
Mhm.
that leads into one of my final questions for you: is
Mhm.
you are surrounded by phenomenal black talent in this industry, whether it's Dwayne with his work on Static Shock, or Kevin Michael Richardson, or Cree Summer, or Phil Morris, or Carl Lumley. You are surrounded by this just illustrious black talent. How
Mhm.
for you as a black man to sit around other black creatives, and how does that influence you to bring your A game to the work?
I mean, it's just about being in the room with people that good, but people your color just make you feel like there's gonna be more options. Because back in the old days, felt like there wouldn't have been more than one brown face in a room.
With that being the case, how people get into the industry has changed vastly. Social media has really changed the game.
Mm. Hmm.
What is one thing that we as creatives have now that you wish you would have been able to have when you were first starting out?
I think, like I might have said earlier, now in this time, these industries know the value of diversity and representation in ways back in the old days they did not.
I'm happy that the industry has changed. What are some
Gotten
things?
better.
What are you proud about where the industry is now, and where do you think the industry can improve for people of diverse backgrounds?
What I'm proud of is the fact that we are getting to do and see the stories of various ethnicities and various personalities. as opposed to the old days where it seemed like everything was just no, just that one way. But no, we have a better show business now.
Where do you think the industry can improve?
Um, well, don't act like the government.
Ooh, that's a bar to leave us off with. Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible, the irreparable Phil Lamarr. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Black Royalty. And before we get off Phil, I have to say, from the bottom of my heart, as a fan of your work, as someone who is inspired by what you've done,
Oh,
as someone that is so happy to finally conduct a conversation with someone of your lineage, I'm just so grateful to see you still working.
oh,
I'm grateful for what you've given to this world. And I'm just so happy to see you still being active. I was
oh,
just listening to J. Cole's album. I don't know if you're like a J. Cole fan or anything like that. He's a rapper, he's like a famous rapper.
oh, okay.
And he was talking about how he feels like the more that he got to the top of his career, he noticed that people he looked up to started to care less about the industry, started to care less about the work
Oh,
that was in front of them. And it's so invigorating for me to see you go out there to conventions, for you to still be in shows, and for more shows and games to come that you're in.
oh, wow.
And it's so inspiring. So thank you.
Mm.
Your
Thank you. I'm gonna have to
inspiration.
look into Jay's stuff. Well, I'm gonna ask my rapper son, Eyes Lamar, because I'm sure he knows about him.
That's well, I'm being greedy, but I guess my final question with you bringing up your kids is, you have kids. Your legacy isn't just your work; it is your family. You've been through so much throughout your life, I'm sure. How does it feel to finally be in a place to not only have a family, but for your dreams to come true in such a spectacular way?
Well, at this age, being a father of kids in their 20s, I know I'm old, but I am incredibly proud to see my children be better at some things than I ever could have been. My son makes songs so great, so many. And my daughter wins national championships in sports. My son is a better music creator than I could have ever been. And my daughter is a better athlete than I could have ever been.
Man, it
That's
makes me emotional to be able to sit with you. And
mhm.
there's so much stuff we haven't gotten to, and I hope to be able to bring you back on at some point later when there's
Aw.
more stuff, and we could just continue to celebrate your legacy. Thank you for inspiring me and so many other people out there. It wouldn't be Black History Month without celebrating your career. You've given so much to this industry, and good sir, you are more than an icon. Thank you for everything, truly.
Aw. Well, thank you, Josh, for having me on here alongside with the great people you've spoken to: Rob Paulson, Steve Bloom, Carl Lumley, Janet Varney. Thank you for talking to me.
I it, you know I it wouldn't feel right to not bring on my inspiration up here for the one time, and I had to do that.
Aw.
So thank you, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right, man.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Go to his Instagram; everything is linked there down below. Thank you guys for watching. As
Mhm.
always, my folks, peace, love, safety. Until next time, bye, guys.